Okay, so the first thing that we want to do together is to look at the exercises that you had to work on for this past couple of weeks. And you'll see, remember that most of your exercises, or a big chunk of it, had to do with the conjugation of the first conjugation verbs. So laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus is called our modal verb because it has the modal principal parts of a first conjugation verb. O, are, avi, atus are the endings of the first conjugation. That's why we will find in the vocab list laudo with the number one next to it. That means that it has these principal parts that we didn't print every time that was needed. Okay, so then we should remember our personal endings. The O or the M stands for I, S for you, T for he, she, it, mus for we, T is for you, and then NT for they. So OST, mus, tis, and NT, the personal endings that are crucial for you to remember in order to find out who performs the action. So most of your exercises were dealing with verbs in these three tenses, either the present, o, as, at, amus, atis, ant. Okay, that's the endings of the present with the characteristic letter A for the first conjugation and the personal endings we talked about before. Bambas, bat, bamus, batis, bant for the imperfect right here. That's the BA, that's characteristic of the imperfect. And then bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt for the future. Okay, so that's for that. So now let's go to your book and your exercises that you had to deal with. So let's go to exercise 118 on page 110. Okay, and so you see that this exercise 118 right here, well, is all dealing with imperfect tenses. You can tell that because you have a BA in every single form before the personal endings. So bat over here, bant over here, bant again, bass over here. So this is all about these different parts of the imperfect. So when you find an imperfect, I hope you always translate by was or were with the ing form after that. So portabat, he, she, or it was carrying. Orabant, they were praying. Okupabant, they were seizing. Punyabant, they were fighting, and so on and so forth. Okay, so for this exercise, no problem. In exercise 119, we mix and match a few different tenses. Here we have the BA for number 1, for example, or for number 6, or for number 4. That obviously is imperfect, but then the other ones that do not have this BA has an A before the ending, so at or ant and that kind of stuff. So that's dealing with presence. So, in your translation, watch out if your tense is going to happen in the present or in the future. Opunyabant was they were attacking, but portat is he carries. When? Right now. They carry or they are carrying. Parabat, careful, that's imperfect. So he, she, or it was parabat preparing. Okay, so hopefully you had no problem with this exercise. Let's keep going to the next page. And in this exercise 120 right here, you had to make sure that you understood the agreement of the verbs and the subject that goes with it. So if the subject of the verb is plural, then your verb has to look plural. So here, equites fortes, cum magno ostium numero pugnat blank. Okay, so here you wonder who was performing the action of fighting. Well, you look at the sentence: the horsemen, the brave horsemen, with a great number of enemies, were fighting. So who was fighting? The horsemen. So since that's plural, then the ending right here has to be nt. Okay, so then we have Christiani Christum regem omnium gentium lauda blank right here. So since we have a subject that is Christiani, I ending, that's plural, the Christians, what were they doing? They were praising Christ. So lauda band nt ending. Okay, so hopefully the rest of the exercise went well. And again, if you have problems with any of these exercises, since you can't ask me any direct questions right now, just make sure you call me or email me your questions. Okay, so the next exercise 122, again here, same kind of exercise we've seen before with presents and imperfects. We're going to move on. to exercise on page 113. And on page 113, we're going to start seeing some other endings, the endings of the future. Bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt for the future. So laudabo, I will praise. Okay, so the bo for the I will. Bis, right here for number 7, dabis, it would be you will give. We might find a bit somewhere, like in number 10, laudabit, he, she, or it will praise. Now, do we have a bimus somewhere? Sure we do. Number 13, lauda bimus, we will praise. Do we have a bitis somewhere? A bitis? Yes, sure. We have an 11, lauda bitis, you guys will praise. And do we have a bunt? Lauda bunt over here, or para bunt over here. So para bunt, they will prepare. Okay? So that shouldn't be a problem. Sentences right here to translate. Let's look at exercise 126, just the last one, number 6. Centurio principes in hiberna vocabit. So we find our verb vocabit. Okay, it's a singular verb. So he, she, or it will call. Can we find a nominative singular for that verb? Sure we can. Centurio right here. Centurio is a centurion. So the centurion will call principes, the chieftains, okay, in hiberna, in the winter quarters or in the winter camps. All right, so any other questions about this one, let me know. Let's keep going to the next page, and we're going to go to the questions. Let's look at exercise 129 on page 115. Quis Caesarem post cedem principum Galliae laudabat? We have the question, quis, who, right? Who will praise Caesar? In sentence number 2, we have the question, cor senatum vocas. Why do you call the Senate? Then we have the question, ubi, where or when? When are the headquarters or the winter quarters of the enemies? So these questions are oftentimes fun to translate. I hope you had fun. The same thing right here for, I think I did do questions 10 to 20. That's, the only ones you need to focus on. And for the answers, don't worry too much about the answers. The key here was to be able to translate the questions. The last thing that I want to make sure that you get is this little particle ne that is oftentimes tagged on at the end of verbs, like in page 132. Exercise 132, we have pugnabant ne semper Romani. So here, this form pugnabant ne looks a little bit odd, but if you drop the ne, you're left with pugnabant, which looks just fine. So here you have, if you drop the ne, the Romans were always fighting. That's a statement. Now turn that into a question because you have the ne. Were the Romans always fighting? Okay, that's the way it should turn out. So translate as a statement first and then turn it into a question. Same thing over here. Drop the ne. Parabant frumentum post longum iter. So they were preparing grain after the long trip. Turn that into a question. Were they preparing grain after the long trip? And then you get this turned into a question. Okay, so hopefully that should make sense, and you should be comfortable with these exercises. So at this point, hopefully you're ready for the quiz. Click on the next link on my webpage, and then you should be able to take the quiz before I teach you the new material.